Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to have a good in-depth look at the monk. We're going to see what makes a monk, what is a monk, and who done it better, D&D or Pathfinder. The monk pretty much embodies Eastern religion and Eastern tradition. It's all about, improving oneself, looking into oneself. You can summon your chi to do massive amounts of damage. It's a hybrid of, say you take the cleric and the champion or paladin. Both of them are based on Western style religions and Western style combat. The monk kind of rolls all of those into one for the Eastern style combat and Eastern style religions. A monk pretty much doesn't rely on deities. It's all about, your body, your mind, your soul. Everything is you. You are the person who is fighting. You are the person who is trying to improve yourself through your meditation, through your studies, and kind of a monk is really the soul of the party, I would say. In modern society, we have the monks like the Shaolin monks. It's really awe-inspiring just to see them be able to do the feats that they can do. Now we come into pop culture and we have stuff like Avatar, not the big giant green alien Avatar, but Avatar, the Legend of Aang. This is a really good representation of a key-powered monk. Yeah, I know it is a Western representation of Eastern mythology, but it's really done well. It is one of my favourite cartoons, and The Legend of Korra I think was just as good. You then have stuff like your Jackie Chan Way of the Drunken Master, your IP Man, all this sort of stuff, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Well, you could build pretty much every Ninja Turtle as a monk. So let us have a look at how are we going to actually rate the monks today. So going over the rules of today's comparisons, first we will not be taking into account any races or backgrounds. We will not be using any variant rules, and we will not be taking into account any equipment or items. For the rankings, we are going to be going on a level 1 build. We will be leveling up the characters right through to level 20 and seeing which one is better. And we will be having a look at D&D's monastic tradition versus the various build options you can do for Pathfinder. So let's have a look at a level 1 monk. To begin with, the hit points. D&D, you get 8 hit points. For Pathfinder, you actually get 10 hit points. This is the very first time that both classes do not share the same hit points. Monks and Pathfinder actually get a decent amount of hit points akin to the fighters and the champions, making them a lot harder to take down in combat. In D&D, you get unarmored defense for your armor class. This is 10 plus dexterity plus your wisdom. This shows the monk with their wise ways of not getting hit in combat. They know how to dodge, and it's not just about being able to dodge the bullet, it's actually knowing where the bullet's coming from. For Pathfinder, you get expert and unarmored. This is the only class in Pathfinder to start with an expert level in your armor class, so this will give you 10 plus dexterity plus 4 with your level starting. At an average, if you have a dexterity of say 18, you'll be getting 19 for your unarmored defense. For your weapons, D&D you get simple weapons and short swords. In Pathfinder, you get simple weapons and unarmed attacks. You are only trained in these, meaning the fighter is actually able to do better fighting in unarmored combat than the monk does. This is a huge issue that a lot of people have, but I think with the different combat styles it does work its way. Your saving throws for D&D, you have strength and dexterity. These are pretty good saving throws. I would have thought a monk would have had more constitution and dexterity, or maybe even constitution and wisdom, but it's not too bad. However, along comes Pathfinder and you are expert in all saves. This just shows the wise monk, the agile monk. It sort of embodies everything that monks are good at. Your special features for D&D are your martial arts. We'll get into this a bit later, but for Pathfinder you also get flurry of blows and powerful fists. We will also be getting into this a little bit later. And finally, other, you have monk weapons in D&D and you have the monk feats in Pathfinder. So let's have a look at the different breakdown of the features. In order to understand how the features are actually rated, we actually have to understand how unarmed damage is calculated for both systems. So in D&D it is simple, it is a 1d20, you add your strength plus any proficiency bonus you have, and the damage is strength plus 1. This means that you don't actually roll damage for any attacks. If you have a strength of 0, you are doing 1 point of damage when you hit. Anything less than that, then you can't actually do any damage in it. And because unarmed strikes are not considered finesse, you are always using your strength as your bonus to hit. Unarmed attacks in Pathfinder, they do a flat damage of 1d4 bludgeoning. They have the traits of agile, which means you take a reduction to the multiple attack penalty for subsequent attacks. It is a finesse weapon, which means you use your dexterity modifier instead of your strength modifier for attack rolls. However, you still use the strength when calculating damage. They are considered non-lethal, so this means that attacks with your fists are non-lethal. They can be used to knock creatures out, but if you want to actually do a lethal strike with them, you take a -2 penalty to your attack roll. And they are considered unarmed, which means you can't be disarmed with them whatsoever. So as monks tend to use unarmed combat, how does this apply to the particular features, such as the D&D's martial arts? Well, with this, you gain the following benefit when you are unarmed or wielding only a monk weapon, which is a simple weapon or a short sword, and you can't be wearing armor or wielding a shield. So you can use your dexterity instead of your strength for the attack and damage roll of your unarmed strikes. This includes all your monk weapons, whether they have the finesse tag or not. You can roll a d4 in place of the normal damage, so you are now doing 1d4 plus your dexterity, and this is for any unarmed strikes or monk weapons, regardless of what the monk weapon does. This dice does change as you gain levels, so to begin with, if you are using a short sword, which does 1d6, you're better off using that as your damage. However, once you start getting more proficient in your martial art weapons, this can actually go up to a 1d12 with a short sword. So it will balance it out. The longer you play a monk, the better you are with all weapons. When you use the attack action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon on your turn, you can make one extra unarmed strike as a bonus action. So this basically gives you 2 attacks per turn. When you start getting multiple attacks, it doesn't actually mean every attack you get it, as it uses your bonus action. You only get 1 bonus action per turn. But it still means at level 1 you can have an attack with the quarterstaff and then make a follow-up punch or a kick attack. And now we have Pathfinder. You get, to begin with, Flurry of Blows. This is you can attack rapidly with fists, feet, elbows, knees and other unarmed attacks. You gain the Flurry of Blow actions. So this costs 1 action to do. It is a flourish weapon, which means you can only use 1 flourish action once per turn, so you cannot use all 3 of your turns to Flurry of Blows. But you basically make 2 unarmed strikes. If both hit the same creature, combine their damage for the purpose of resistance and weaknesses. Apply your multiple attack penalty to the strikes as normal. And then you have Powerful Fists. So this replaces the normal fist attack or the normal unarmed attack. You know how to wield your fists as deadly weapons. The damage for your die on your fist attack is increased to 1d6 instead of 1d4. Most people take a -2 circumstance penalty when making a lethal attack with a non-lethal unarmed attack because they find it hard to hit their fist with deadly force. You don't take this penalty when making a lethal attack with your fists or any other unarmed attack. Now, it doesn't remove the unarmed penalty from it, so you can still make unarmed strikes with your fists, but it means that you no longer have to take a penalty if you want to do a lethal attack with your fists. This is why I say it sort of balances out with the fighter. Yes, the fighter will get +2 to attack, but because it is considered a non-lethal weapon, if they want to make that attack lethal, they are actually taking a -2 penalty, so they're hitting the same as you anyway, and they can only do 1d4 damage. You are doing 1d6, plus you get to strike twice at level 1. Those are the features, so now let's have a look at monk weapons versus the extra feats you get for Pathfinder. So a monastic weapon is basically any weapon that is a short sword or a simple melee weapon that doesn't have the heavy or two-handed property. So I have here a nice little table which basically gives you the D&D equivalent. You just use the D&D stats and then what the monastic weapon would be. So as you can see, pretty much hand in hand with whatever you want. You just use your in-game stats until your monk martial arts damage starts leveling up, and then you can start using that. But pretty much just use whatever weapon you want to use and have a monastic style name for it, as long as it fits within the rules. So to further customise your monk in Pathfinder, you have access to the following feats: Key Rush, Key Strike and Monastic Weapons. Key Rush gives you 1 focus point and access to the Key Rush spell. You are accelerated by your key. You move with such speed that you become a blur. Move 2 times, either strides or steps, or a stride or a step, in either order, it is your choice. You gain the concealed condition during this movement until the start of your next turn. This will basically let you consider the enemy as flat-footed, giving you an extra bonus on your attack. And then Key Strike. Your study of the flow of mystical energies allows you to harness it into your physical strikes. Once again, you gain 1 focus point and you gain access to the Key Strike key spell. You focus your key into magical attacks. Make an unarmed strike or a flurry of blows attack. This doesn't change the limit on only using 1 flourish per turn. You gain a +1 status bonus to your attack rolls with the strike, and the strikes deal 1d6 extra damage. This damage can be any of the following type of your choice when you choose the strike. So force, lore, negative or positive. And every few levels it'll upgrade by another 1d6 damage. And then you get monastic weapons. So you have trained with the traditional weaponry of your monastery or your school. You gain access to all the uncommon weapons that have the monk trait and become trained in simple and martial monk weapons. You can use melee monk weapons with any of your monk feats or your monk abilities that would require you to usually use an unarmed strike. The reason this is important is because the wording of your flurry of blows and your monk abilities often states that it must be the unarmed attack, so even though you're trained in simple weapons, you can't actually use simple weapons while doing flurry of blows. You must be unarmed. This will allow you to do it. There is also an upgrade to this which actually lets you use your ancestral weapons, but that is a level up, so we're not really going to go into that. Now, those are not the only feats available to monks at level 1. You also have a bunch of feats called stances. These stances let you enter a different type of combat mode. It often will only allow you to make 1 type of attack, but there are ones that let you make multiple attacks. Plus, you get a really good bonus while entering that stance. So let's have a look. The first stance on our list is Crane Stance. With that, you get access to the Crane Wing attack. Every attack I have an asterisk basically means that's the only attack you can make while you are in that stance. So the Crane Wing attack gives you a 1d6 bludgeoning damage. It will make your attack agile, finesse, non-lethal and unarmed, and you get a +1 circumstance bonus to your armor class, and you reduce the DC for high jump and long jump by 5, and when you leap you can move an additional 5 feet horizontally or 2 feet vertically. This will give you great mobility in combat. The next stance is Dragon Stance. You get access to the Dragon Tail attack. This does 1d10 bludgeoning damage. It is backswing, non-lethal and unarmed, and while in Dragon Stance, you can ignore the first square of difficult terrain while striding. Then we move along to the Dwarf's favourite stance. This is Mountain Stance. and you get access to the Fallen Stone attack. This is the only attack you can make in this stance, and it does 1d8 bludgeoning damage. It also has the Forceful, Non-Lethal and Unarmed tags. You get a +4 item bonus to your armor class and a +2 circumstance bonus to any defense against being shoved or tripped. You have a dexterity modifier cap of your armor class of +0, meaning you don't add your dexterity to your armor class, and your speeds are all reduced. It's not very good as a mobile stance, but teamed up with a lot of other feats, this can actually give you a ridiculously high AC. The next stance is the Tiger stance. You get access to the Tiger's Claw attack. It does 1d8 slashing damage, and it has the Agile, Finesse, Non-Lethal and Unarmed tags. On a critical success with your Tiger's Claw, if you deal damage, the target takes an extra 1d4 persistent bleed damage, and as long as your speed is at least 20 feet while in the Tiger stance, you can step 10 feet instead of the usual 5 feet. Then we have Wolf stance. So the Wolf stance gives you access to the Wolf's Jaw attack. This is a 1d8 piercing damage, and it has the tags Agile, Backstabber, Finesse, Non-Lethal and Unarmed. If you're flanking a target while in Wolf stance, your Wolf Jaw unarmed attacks also gain the Trip trait. The next stance is your Gorilla stance. You can only make the Gorilla Slam attack, and this attack does 1d8 bludgeoning damage. It has the Backswing, Forceful, Grapple, Non-Lethal and Unarmed traits. While in this stance, you gain a +2 circumstance bonus to athletic checks to climb, and if you roll a success on an athletics check to climb, you gain a critical success instead. The next stance is your archery stance. So while in this stance, the only strikes you can make are those using long bows, short bows or bows with the monk trait. You can use flurry of blows with these bows, and you can use other monk feats and monk abilities that normally require you to be unarmed with these bows when attacking within half your first range. Very good if you want to be a Zen archer. There are quite a few nice feats of letting you pluck arrows out of the sky that are fired to you and basically firing them back in one action. And the very final stance is Jackie Chan's favourite stumbling stance. Jackie Chan had the Drunken Master, they've changed it to remove the drunken connotations, and it's stumbling stance. So in this, the only strike you can make is Stumbling Swing. It is a 1d8 bludgeoning. It has Agile, Backstabber, Finesse, Non-Lethal and Unarmed tags. And while in this strike, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to deception checks when you feint, and if an enemy hits you with a melee strike, it actually becomes flat-footed on your next strikes you make against it. The feint action is actually an underutilized ability within the Pathfinder system. Effectively, you spend one action to feint, you pretend to attack one way and you attack from another direction. If you succeed, your enemy is considered flat-footed against all your attacks for the rest of this round. If you critically succeed, then the enemy is considered flat-footed against all attacks until the end of your next round. This includes all attacks made by your allies. So as you can see, you have a lot of versatility in your builds with Pathfinder. But let's have a look at the winners. So our first stat is hit points. Pathfinder is actually the winner. This will be the first time that it is not a draw. Pathfinder has 10 hit points, D&D only has 8 hit points. The next stat is armor. The winner here is actually Pathfinder. Unless you're particularly building a wisdom-based monk, you don't get access. You don't get any extra ability with your unarmored defense. The Pathfinder system, you actually get a massive bonus on your defense straight off. Okay, weapons, I'm actually going to give this to D&D. I know both have unarmed attacks and both have simple weapons, however, in D&D you can actually use these weapons on all your features as long as it is considered a monk weapon. You can use your flurry of blows, you can use most monk and key abilities with these weapons. If you want to do that with Pathfinder, you actually have to sacrifice a feat to do it. So winner here is D&D. Saving throws, well, Pathfinder has expert in all saving throws. D&D only has proficiency in 2, and I don't really think they're very appropriate, so the winner here is Pathfinder. Features, I'm actually going to give this one a draw. Both are pretty decent features. I like how both handle the unarmed attacks. So yeah, a draw for both of them. And finally, other, this is clearly a win for Pathfinder. You have way more versatility as opposed to some cool weapon options. So for level 1, I believe if you're going to build a monk, build it in Pathfinder. It is clearly the winner. It is, in all honesty, I don't know what it is about the D&D monk. It's an okay-ish class, but Pathfinder really excels at building monks in D&D. They really feel like they're a unique class. You have so many more options available to you, and it's just a better system for monks. So the winner here is Pathfinder. Now we can have a look at leveling up our characters from level 1 through to level 20. So how we're going to grade this is your choices, your proficiencies, your abilities, your feats, your features, and finally your level 20 capstone ability. Let's start with the D&D monk. At level 2, your proficiency bonus is a +2, you do 1d4 martial arts damage, you get 2 key points, and your unarmored movement is 10 feet. The features you get is Key and Unarmored Movement. So let's have a look at Key. Key. Starting at 2nd level, your training allows you to harness the mystical energies of Key. Your access to this energy is represented by a number of key points. Your monk level determines the number of key points you have, as shown in the key points column of the monk table, which we have gone over. You can spend these points to fuel various key features. You start knowing 3 such features: Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind. You learn more key features as you gain levels in this class. When you spend a key point, it is unavailable until you finish a short or long rest, at the end of which you draw all of your extended key back into yourself. You must spend at least 30 minutes of rest meditating to regain your key points. Some of your key features require your target to make a saving throw to resist the feature's effects. The saving throw is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier. And the 3 that you start off with are Flurry of Blows. Immediately after you gain the attack action on your turn, you can spend 1 key point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. Patient Defense. You can spend 1 key point to take the dodge action as a bonus action on your turn. And Step of the Wind. You can spend 1 key point to take the disengage or dash action as a bonus action on your turn, and your jump distance is double for this turn. Also at 2nd level, you get Unarmored Movement. Starting at 2nd level, your speed is increased by 10 feet when you are not wearing armour or wielding a shield. This bonus increases when you reach certain monk levels, as shown on the monk table. At 9th level, you gain the ability to move along vertical surfaces and across liquids on your turn without falling during the move. At 3rd level, you get Deflect Missiles and your Monastic Tradition. Your Monastic Tradition focuses your monk in unique and interesting ways. We're going to be going into this a little bit further later on, but your Monastic Tradition will give you a few features at level 3, and then another one at 6th, 11th, and finally 17th. And Deflect Missiles, starting at 3rd level, you can use your reaction to deflect or catch a missile when you are hit by a ranged weapon attack. When you do so, the damage you take from the attack is reduced by 1d10 plus your dex modifier and your monk level. If you reduce the damage to 0, you can actually catch the missile if it is small enough for you to hold and you have at least one hand free. If you catch the missile this way, you can spend 1 key point to make a ranged attack with the weapon or piece of ammunition that you just caught, flinging it back at your enemy. At 4th level, you get your first ASI as well as Slow Fall. Slow Fall means you can use your reaction when you fall to reduce any falling damage you take by the amount equal to 5 times your monk level, so at the beginning this is 20 points. At 5th level, your proficiency bonus goes up to +3, your martial arts damage goes up to 1d6, and you get extra attack and stunning strike. Extra attack will let you attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn, and starting strike, you can interfere with the flow of ki in an opponent's body. When you hit another creature with a melee weapon attack, you can spend 1 key point to attempt a stunning strike. The target must succeed a constitution saving throw or be stunned until the end of your next turn. At 6th level, your unarmored movement goes up to 15 feet and you get key empowered strikes and a monastic tradition feature. Your key empowered strikes basically makes your attacks magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunities to non-magical attacks and damage. 7th level gives you evasion and stillness of mind. Evasion letting you dodge any attack that requires you to make a dexterity saving throw. If you succeed in said dexterity saving throw, you take no damage instead of half damage, and if you fail, you only take half damage. Very good for defense. In Stillness of Mind, starting at 7th level, you can use your action to end one effect on yourself that is causing you to be charmed or frightened. At 8th level, you get your second ability score improvement. At 9th level, you get your proficiency bonus increased to +4, and you get the unarmoured movement improvement, which lets you walk up vertical walls and across water. Level 10 gives you purity of body, as well as plus 20 feet on your unarmoured movement. Purity of body basically giving you immunity to disease and poison. At 11th level, your martial arts damage increases to a 1d8 and you get a monastic tradition. At 12th level, you get an ability score improvement. 13th level, your proficiency bonus goes up by 1, making it a plus 5, and you get Tongue of the Sun and Moon. Tongue of the Sun and Moon lets you understand all spoken languages. Also, any creature that can understand language can understand whatever you say. At 14th level, your unarmoured movement increases to plus 25 feet and you get access to Diamond Soul. This gives you proficiency in all saving throws. Additionally, if you make a saving throw and fail, you can spend 1 key point to re-roll it and take the second result. 15th level gives you Timeless Body. This means that you no longer age, you can't be aged magically, and you no longer need food or water. 16th level gives you another ability score improvement, and 17th level your proficiency bonus maxes out to a plus 6, your martial arts damage maxes out to 1d10, and you get your final monastic tradition feature. At 18th level your unarmoured movement speed maxes out to plus 13 feet, and you get the feature Empty Body. So Empty Body, at the beginning of 18th level you can use your action to spend 4 key points to become invisible for 1 minute. During that time you also have resistance to all damage but force damage. Additionally, you can spend 8 key points to cast the Astral Projection spell without needing material components. When you do so, you can't take any other creature with you. 19th level, you get your final ability score improvement, and at 20th level, you get your capstone ability of Perfect Self. With this, when you roll for initiative and you have no key points remaining, which you'll have 20 key points at this stage, you will regain 4 key points. It's kind of a letdown. And that is a level 20 D&D monk. Now let's have a look at the level up system for Pathfinder. At 2nd level you get a monk feat and a skill feat. 3rd level you get a general feat, your incredible movement is increased by 10 feet, you get mystic strikes and a skill increase. Incredible movement, you gain a plus 10 foot status bonus to your speed whenever you're not wearing armor. Mystic strikes, you can focus your physical attacks to imbue them with magical energy. Basically, your unarmed attacks become magical, allowing you to bypass resistance for stuff that requires magical damage. At 4th level, you get a monk feat and a skill feat. At 5th level, you get your ability boost, you get alertness, an ancestry feat, expert strikes, and a skill increase. With alertness, your proficiency rank for perception increases to expert. Expert strikes, your proficiency rank for unarmed attack and simple weapons increases to expert. 6th level, monk feat and a skill feat. 7th level, you get a general feat, your incredible movement is now 15 feet, you get Path to Perfection, a skill increase and weapon specialization. Path to Perfection, you have progressed along your own path to enlightenment. Choose Fortitude, Reflex or Will saving throws. Your proficiency rank for that chosen save and throw is increased to Master. When you roll a success on that chosen save and throw, you get a critical success instead. Weapon specialization, you've learned how to inflict greater injuries with the weapons you know best. You deal 2 additional damage with the weapons and unarmed attacks in which you are an expert. This damage is increased to plus 3 if you are a master, and plus 4 if you are a legendary. 8th level, a monk feat and a skill feat. 9th level, an ancestry feat, metal strikes, monk expertise, and a skill increase. With metal strikes, you can actually imbue your attacks with the damage of rare metals. Your unarmed attacks are treated as cold iron and silver. This allows you to deal more damage to a variety of supernatural creatures, such as demons, devils, and fae. Monk expertise, your proficiency rank for your monk class DC is increased to expert. If you have key spells, your proficiency rank for your spell attack and spell DCs with the tradition of your magic you use for your key spells is increased to expert. 10th level, an ability boost, a monk feat and a skill feat. 11th level, you get a general feat, your incredible movement is now 20 feet, you get your second path to perfection and a skill increase. Your second path of perfection, you've learned how to find perfection in every success. Choose a different save and throw than the one you chose for your first path of perfection. Your proficiency rank for the chosen save and throw is increased to Master. If you roll a success with that chosen save and throw, you get a critical success instead. 12th level, you get a monk feat and a skill feat. 13th level, you get an Ancestry feat, Graceful Mastery, Master Strikes, and a skill increase. Graceful Mastery, you move with perpetual grace in battle, eluding and turning aside blows. Your proficiency rank for unarmored defense is increased to Master. And Mastery Strikes, you have honed your skill in using your body as a weapon. Your proficiency ranks with unarmored attacks and simple weapons increases to Master. 14th level, a Monk feat and a skill feat. 15th level, an ability boost, a general feat, greater weapon specialization, incredible movement of plus 25 feet, a skill increase, and your third path to perfection. Greater weapon specialization, your damage for your weapon specialization is increased to plus 4 with weapons and unarmed attacks which you are an expert in, plus 6 if you're a master, and plus 8 if you're a legendary. By this stage, with your master strikes, you should be at plus 6 extra damage. Your third path to perfection, you have made great progress in your personal studies of enlightenment. Choose one of the saving throws you selected for your path of perfection or second path of perfection. Your proficiency rank for that chosen type of save is increased to legendary. When you roll a critical fail on that type of save, you just get a fail instead. And when you roll a failure for the chosen type of save against an effect that deals damage, you only take half damage. 16th level, a Monk feat and a skill feat. 17th level is Antimadium Strikes, Ancestry feat, Graceful Legend, and skill increase. Adamantium Strikes basically means your unarmed attacks are now counted as adamantium on top of the silver and cold iron. In Graceful Legend, your proficiency rank for unarmored defense is now increased to legendary, and your proficiency rank for your monk class DC is increased to master. This will include your key spells, so the attack roll and the save DC. 18th level is a Monk feat and a skill feat. 19th level is a general feat, your incredible movement increases to plus 30 feet, you get perfect form and a skill increase. Perfect form on your first strike on your turn. If you roll lower than a 10, you basically count it as a 10. This has effectively given you your very first strike a guaranteed hit. And 20th level, you get your final ability boost, a Monk feat and a skill feat. And that rounds out a level 20 Pathfinder Monk. So let's actually compare the two classes as they level up. Our first rank will be choices, so let's have a look at each choice. The way I'm ranking this is you actually get to make a meaningful choice for your character, not just be given a feature that you have no control over. So let's have a look. At 3rd level, you get your monastic tradition. Now, I am aware that this will give you abilities at 6th level, and then following on at 11th level and 17th level. But once you've chosen your monastic tradition, you generally don't get extra choices after that. Then you get your ability score improvement at 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th and 19th level, and that's about it for D&D. Pretty much anything else you get is a feature that is told what you do with it. You don't get to make any extra choices with your character. With Pathfinder, every single level you get at least 2 different options you can choose from. They may just be every even level a Monk feat and a skill feat, but still that is choices that you get to choose, and they're actually quite impacting choices. The skill feats not so much, Monk feats definitely. Also, general feats are thrown in there, skill increases, how well your character is at certain things, your ability boosts. You just get a wider range of skills. So I'm going to call this one a win for Pathfinder. Next on the list is your proficiency bonus. This is basically what sort of bonus you are going to get. It can help you with your defense, your attack, your abilities, anything like that. So let's start off with D&D. At 5th level, 9th level, 13th level and 17th level, you actually get a +1 to your proficiency bonus. This will max it out to a +6. At 7th level you get evasion, and 14th level you get diamond soul. All of these help with proficiency bonus on either dodge, attack or anything else. Go over to Pathfinder and we see at 5th level you get alertness and expert strikes. 7th level you get your path to perfection. 9th level monk expertise. 11th level second path to perfection. 13th level graceful mastery and master strikes. 15th level is your third path to perfection, and 17th level is Graceful Legend. Now, not taking into account the fact that Pathfinder is a higher level tier system, just by looking at the raw stat increases, with D&D you're getting a +6 across the board. For Pathfinder, this actually increases to a +8 for a lot of things, as well as increasing things like direct damage and giving you extra abilities. So for this one, I'm going to be giving this to Pathfinder again. Now we move on to the abilities. This is basically how many times or what you get to do with your ability score. As we can see, D&D at 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th and 19th level, you get to increase your ability score. The rules for this is basically you get to increase either one ability score by 2 or 2 ability scores by 1, and you can't increase anything above level 20. Pathfinder, you don't get quite as much, you only get them at level 5, 10, 15 and 20. However, you get 4 points to put into any 4 ability scores. With that, if the ability score is under 18, it gets a +2. If it is above 18, so moving 18 to 19, you get a +1, and there is no level cap. So based on this, I have had a few people comment that, Pathfinder should be winning simply because you get more options. So yep, I'm going to agree with them here. I'm going to give the win to Pathfinder. For feats, this here is every time a feat is available to your character during level up. So as we can see, in D&D, your feats are actually tied to your ability score improvements. You can either take an ASI or you can take a feat, whereas Pathfinder, every single level you get to choose another feat. In fact, every second level, on every even level, you get to choose 2 feats. So the win here is definitely a Pathfinder win. Now for the features, I've basically gone through with all of the D&D features just to see where Pathfinder gets them and do they match up, which one is better. The Pathfinder features you get at certain levels, the D&D features you get. It is kind of messy, and as you can tell by this particular graph, I've tried to color code everything, which as you can see has made quite a bit of a mess. But if we go through it, we can see that the aqua blue is basically the damage you do with your D&D unarmored attacks or your monk weapons. So it goes from 1d4 to 1d6 at 5th level, 11th level it is 1d8, and at 17th level it is 1d10. Well, Pathfinder, excluding all of the different stances you can use, at 5th level you get expert strikes, at 7th level weapon specialization, 13th level master strikes, 15th level greater weapon specialization, and 19th level perfect form. So you can see Pathfinder has more options for just direct damage output. Then we go for your unarmored movement. D&D kind of wins this one. You get at level 2 10 feet, whereas Pathfinder it is level 3 you get 10 feet. And then they all pretty much match up, however Pathfinder is one level behind, both capping out at 30 feet. We can then just go through and choose a bunch of different ones. So deflect missiles, this is a standard feature for D&D, whereas if you want it in Pathfinder, you would choose a monk feat at level 4, and then there is another follow-up monk feat at level 6, and a monk feat at level 8. With the D&D extra attack coming in at level 5, this one kind of is a win for D&D for that piece, because Pathfinder, you don't get an extra attack until 20th level with your final monk feat. However, if we go for stunning strike, well, that comes in at level 5 for D&D, it comes in at level 2 for Pathfinder. Key empowered strikes, well, with that you get mystic strikes, metal strikes and antimadium strikes for Pathfinder. We can go down to evasion and stillness of mind. Well, these are monk feats available at level 12. We can go off for purity of body, and we just follow on the whole way through. Yes, Pathfinder, a lot of them are hidden behind monk feats, but a lot of them, if you don't need it and you don't have a DM that is actually playing to that, why waste a feature on something like that when there are much more features out there and a wide variety of feats that you can choose from? So all up, it's kind of a draw, but simply because of all the extra options you get, I'm going to have to give this one to Pathfinder again. And finally, the all-important capstone ability. This marks your epic journey as a level 20 monk. So, for D&D, you get Perfect Self, giving you 4 of your key points back at the start of initiative, if you have none. Yeah, okay. And then we get access to the Pathfinder monk feats. Endure and Quickness, you move as fast as the high winds itself. You are permanently quickened, but you can only use your extra action to stride or leap, or provide one of those actions needed for high jump or long jump. Fuse Stance, you combine 2 stances into a single stance of your own. When you take this feat, choose 2 stances you know and combine them into a single fuse stance. This gives you a new fuse stance unique name, and when you enter the fuse stance you gain all the effects of both stances, including the requirements and restrictions. Impossible Technique, which is a reaction, trigger the enemy's attack hits you and or you fail a saving throw against an enemy's ability. You execute a maneuver that defies possibility. If the trigger in effect was an enemy's attack hitting you, then the enemy rerolls the attack and uses the lower result. Basically, you get to impose disadvantage on an attack. If the trigger in effect was a failed saving throw, you reroll the saving throw and use the higher one. Basically, you use your reaction to get advantage on a saving throw. And then Deadly Strikes. You have honed your body to attack with lethal focus. Your unarmed attacks gain the Deadly D10 trait, or you increase the Deadly trait to D10 if the unarmed attack is already deadly with a smaller dice size. So basically, the Deadly trait means when you do a critical strike, instead of just doubling, you double your roll and you roll an extra D10. Now, there are more capstone abilities inside each campaign book, but we're just going after the ones in the core rulebook and the player's handbook. So, which one wins? Well, I think it's pretty obvious here. Pathfinder is definitely the winner. I mean, Fuse Stance is by far my favourite one. Endure and Quickness is pretty good. Impossible Technique is pretty much imposing or getting advantage on rolls. And Deadly Strike, it's okay if you have a high enough attack to be able to do crits. Yeah, way better than 4 measly key points at the start of your turn. Way better than 4 measly key points at the start of initiative. So, for this one, this is a clean roll. Pathfinder wins everything for leveling up. So, monastic tradition versus build options. This is the final thing we are testing on today, and let's start off by having a look at all the monastic traditions you have. So when you reach 3rd level, you commit yourself to a monastic tradition, the ones available within the books. I'm counting the ones that will be in your player's handbook, in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. You have the Way of Mercy, the Way of Shadow, the Way of the Astral Self, the Way of the Drunken Master, the Way of the 4 Elements, the Way of the Kensai, the Way of the Long Death, the Way of the Open Hand, and the Way of the Sun Soul. Your tradition grants you a feature at 3rd level, and then another one at 6th, 9th and 17th level. So let's have a look at the Way of Mercy versus the build options for Pathfinder. The Way of the Mercy monk. Monks of the Way of the Mercy learn to manipulate the life force of others to bring aid to those who need it. They are wandering physicians to the poor and the hurt. However, to those beyond their help they bring a swift end as an act of mercy. At 3rd level you get Implements of Mercy, Hand of Healing and Hand of Harm. 6th level, Physician's Touch. 11th level, Flurry of Healing and Harm. And 17th level, Hand of the Ultimate Mercy. This pretty much lets you heal with your attacks. So how do you do this with Pathfinder? Well, easiest option would be take the Herbalist background, and then with your dedications you can take a Cleric, Medic or Herbalist dedication, and just for the fun of it, I would take Risky Surgery, which basically means you make an attack move, you do damage, and then you heal. And it's as simple as that. You have a monk that can heal via attacking. Now Way of the Shadow. This is my personal favourite D&D monk. Monks of the Way of Shadow follow a tradition that values stealth and subterfuge. These monks might be called ninjas or shadow dancers, and they serve as spies and assassin. At level 3 you get Shadow Arts. At level 6 you get Shadow Step, level 11 Cloak of Shadows, and level 17 Opportunist. For your build options, what you want to do is you want to take the Clinging Shadows Initiate feat, the Shadows Web feat, and then take Shadow Dancer dedication at the appropriate level. And you have a much better Shadow Dancer. Way of the Astral Self. A monk who follows the Way of the Astral Self believes their body is an illusion. They see their ki as the representation of their true form, an astral self. So at 3rd level you get Arms of the Astral Self, 6th level Visage of the Astral Self, 11th level Body of the Astral Self, and 17th level Awakened Astral Self. If you want to play this type of monk in Pathfinder, just honestly build any monk you want to do, and when you can take a dedication, simply take any occultic dedication. There are so many different spells like Grim Tendrils, Spectral Hand, or Dream Message. I mean, there are heaps of spells. This is the whole thing that occultic magic is based on. So, away you go. Way of the Drunken Master is another favourite of mine. I in fact have a little drunken goblin who is a Way of the Drunken Master monk. So the Way of the Drunken Master teaches its students to move with the jerky, unpredicted motions of a drunkard. A drunken master sways, tottering on unsteady feet, to preserve what seems like an incompetent combatant who proves frustrated to engage. At 3rd level you get bonus proficiencies and drunken technique. 6th level you get tipsy sway, 11th level drunkard's luck, and 17th level intoxicated frenzy. The build options for this is you take the stumbling stance feat, and you take an acrobatic dedication, and you've got a really good drunken master monk. I have one of my players who has built a ratfolk monk in Pathfinder who plays a stumbling stance feat and acrobat dedication to pretty much flop around this little tiny rat in the middle of combat and hit wherever they can. Instead of going over every single other monastic tradition, we're just going to go with a brief description of them. So, Way of the Four Elements, take Key Strike, Elemental Fist, and any primal or arcane dedication. Way of the Kensai, take monastic weapon feats, P-Fel stance, and any blade stance, and Whirling Blade stance. For Way of the Long Death, take a cleric dedication. Way of the Open Hand, pretty much any monk build will do for this one. And Way of the Sun Soul, take Key Strike, Elemental Fist, and any primal or arcane dedication. And there you go. You can pretty much match every single D&D class with a really competent and a lot of the times a lot better monk build in Pathfinder. But just for the sake of argument, let's do it the other way around and let's see what sort of builds we can do in Pathfinder that you just don't really get in D&D. In Pathfinder, you can build a wrestler monk, an arcane archer monk, or actually a much better key monk. You can kind of get them in D&D, but in all honesty, if you want a wrestler or an arcane archer, I would strongly recommend just going with a fighter. It's a much better option. So, I mean, there are many more different builds you could probably do. These are just the 3 straight off the top of my head. But, Pathfinder, in all honesty, it's build options versus the monastic traditions. It's not a contest. Pathfinder definitely wins, which basically means this is a complete and utter whitewash. No, which basically means this is a complete and utter butt whipping on the side of Pathfinder. Pathfinder is a much better monk. Hands down, no matter what arguments you make, I think Pathfinder is better. There's nothing you can do in D&D that you can't do better in Pathfinder, and there's so much more you can do in Pathfinder that you just can't do in D&D. And it is a little sad. I mean, monks, I think they got the short end of the stick in D&D. I know monks were one of the classes that Tasha's Cauldron of Everything tried to fix with a few other options, but it didn't do it. None of the subclasses are really that good, I think. In all honesty, Drunken Master is good, but you can play any other subclass and roleplay as a Drunken Master. The only real good one is the Shadow Dancer type monk, and you can just do it much better in Pathfinder. So, yeah, I'm calling this one a complete and utter 100% win for Pathfinder. If you like this video, then please like, share and leave a comment. If you have another topic you'd like me to cover, write that down in the comments and I'll look into that for you. But thank you for watching, please subscribe as that's the best way to help grow this channel, and you can also support this channel through Patreon and joining us at Discord. So, thank you very much, and farewell.